Hey, happy Friday. Mr. H here with you on Planet Earth. How you doing? Well, it was an interesting week, wasn't it? I try to keep stuff focused on history, kind of what was, but sometimes what is has a way of barging in on you because, say what you will, current events are basically history in the making. And the event I'm talking about, what's going on over here in the Middle East lately. Remember, I said a few months back when we talked about Israel on October 7 and all of that? It's the Middle East. They've been fighting since 3500 BC. It's not stopping anytime soon. I said they fought before, they're fighting now, they'll fight again. Well, this was again. Here we are. Iranian attack on Israel over the weekend. They launched 300 drones, cruise missiles, and ballistic missiles at Israel. And we talked about if they ever wanted to launch an attack, it'd be a very narrow attack profile. Only Iraq and Syria and Lebanon will let them through, so, very narrow. But they decided to launch it over Jordan, part of Saudi Arabia, who don't appear too happy with the Iranians at the moment. But that's just par for the course. Iran clearly wasn't too worried about it. So they launched all of these missiles. Now, back on April the 1st, the Israelis bombed an Iranian consulate because they said that there are Iranian military personnel in it. That's something I think everybody does, but anyway, they did it. And this is the Iranian retaliation for it. So 300 some elements of attack on Israel. First time Iran and Israel have ever gone toe to toe directly. That's what you saw all weekend, right? We saw the missiles coming down. They're at the Dome of the Rock in Jerusalem. Missiles getting hit. Over 300, supposedly Iron Dome and David Slingshot and everything went into full action. Did a lot better this time than they did back on October 7th. I guess they were waiting because we heard on the news that people saw the drones and missiles launching out of Iran 3 hours before the attack, so I guess they had time to get ready for it. And 99% of the Iranian weaponry did not get through. Yep, 99% failure rate on Iran's part. A couple hit airfields here and there. I think one C-130, these always are damaged. One girl was hit by hot metal someplace. So, yeah, it really didn't work out so great for Iran. And they tried to say Operation True Promise, what they called it. We did what we went out to accomplish, and we're ready to call it a day. Well, after that kind of failure, yeah, you probably should call it a day. And everyone was wondering if the Israelis would restrain themselves. You do realize this is the Middle East, right? Yeah, so here comes Israel. They hit back. That was yesterday. And again, they have the same problem the Iranians have because both countries are not really close to each other. And it might actually be worse for the Israelis because Syria and Iraq don't really like Israel very much. And so I figure they fly over those two. And, well, you already don't like us, so what's the point? Supposedly there were some attacks in Syrian and Iraqi positions someplace. But the place they're really after, you see it right there, 200 some odd miles south of Tehran, is Isfahan, where they have their nuclear power plant, where they're allegedly working on a nuclear weapon. We don't know 100%. So the Israelis sent some planes, maybe some missiles. We're not totally sure. They kind of close-mouthed about it. They did, however, slip up and say 3 missiles fired from airplanes. So there we are, airplanes. Doesn't appear to be a lot of damage done. So, the satellites aren't picking up any craters. Nothing really seemed to have got hit. Is more symbolic than anything else, but it's very expensive to fly planes all the way over there and back again. So anyway, like I said, they're wondering what kind of weapons, and the Israelis always close mouth about stuff like that. So I'm betting it's probably the F-35. The United States and Israel, only two with these things. It's a standoff plane that can fire missiles, multi-attack platform they call it. So that was probably it, but I do have a question. It's 1,300 miles from Jerusalem to Tehran, and the range of this plane is 1,300 miles, so it can get there. How's it coming back? So somebody up there refueling. The Israelis are good with that kind of stuff. The United States said they had nothing to do with it, so I guess they didn't want to get mixed up in this thing. But it tells you something about Iraq and Syria's air force if they can't find lumbering, transport and tankers and stuff up there, and the Israelis pull this whole thing off without much of a problem. So, good job, I guess, but no real damage going either way. If Israel and Iran were to theoretically go toe-to-toe with each other, well, they don't, the only way this could really happen, the ground forces grapple. I'm sure Iran could get Iraq and Syria and Lebanon to let their forces come through and have a big battle on the Golan Heights or southern Lebanon, northern Israel area. Well, that's a long way to go, man. That's really a hostile desert out there. If they were to grapple with each other, there's 170,000 active personnel in Israel, who most of which are tied up in Gaza right now. 610,000 active for Iran. We've got 350,000 reservists for Iran, 465 for Israel, but they haven't started a draft, so they could get a lot more people. And this thing broadly known as paramilitary. So if they were to fight each other, Iran is definitely a lot bigger, but the distance and plus, Israeli determination not to be pushed back into the ocean could play a big role if they could even get close to fighting each other. Because as you can see, yeah, I just don't see it happening. And launching airstrikes back and forth, that's just wasting everybody's time, man. Iran launches this big thing with 300 missiles, and, I think, two of them hit the ground. All right, Israel launches airstrike back. They hit something, but doesn't appear to have really done any damage. I don't know. It just looks like a big waste of time, man. So I don't know what's going on. They don't appear to want to escalate it. So I guess that's actually good news and unusually restrained by Middle Eastern standards. So we could just hope that they've decided to call it a day and walk away from each other. After all, this thing in Gaza is already pretty bad. Hey, instead of fighting a war, why don't you read about one? Check out HeavenSteel on Lulu.com. It's about a grain merchant who wants to do something else, gets caught up in the middle of a war. That sound familiar, anybody? No, it's not about Mr. H. The closest I came to fighting a war was almost killing my program director at a radio station I worked at. We'll talk about that some other time. But hey, HeavenSteel is an awesome book. It's an awesome story. It's great for regifting. And most importantly, Mr. H gets a buck. HeavenSteel, Lulu.com. All right, let's talk about some prehistoric animals. Mosasaurs. Why are we talking about mosasaurs? I don't know. I thought about it and said let's talk about mosasaurs today. Yeah, there are different kinds of mosasaurs. Some are big, some are small. We're going to talk about the big guys, like Tylosaurus. And there's a good example of one right there. Fairly big guy. Could be up to 50 feet, though they think it might actually be smaller. They had a problem counting the number of vertebrae. Don't try it drunk on a Friday night. It's my advice to the paleontology community. But still, a pretty big animal. Different kinds. That one on top look familiar is the one from Fallen Kingdom. Mosasaur is pretty big, but I don't think it's that big. Did you notice the ruffles here on the top? Yeah, keep that in mind. And then down here's Jurassic Park, the one there from the other draft back in 2015. Looks a little bit smaller, still big. We got the marketing one down there, and then we got what we call the website-sized one. The one on the bottom, Mosasaurus hoffmanni. Yeah, that's the one we're kind of going to talk about. That one we know definitely existed. It might have been as big as the one boasted on the website, but even if it's small, it's, still pretty big. Bigger than a human being. Everybody knows about Mosasaur, been around a long time. People remember from Jurassic Park taking down Anonymous Rex. The problem in a fight between water animals and land animals is that the water animals usually have an advantage because the land animal can't really go in the water. And although the water animal can't really come out that far, it can come out enough in an ambush. Look at those teeth. Look at those jaws. Look how it ends. Mosasaur wins that one, man. Rexy and Velociraptor, I think they were just kind of happy it ended with a win and went home. Mosasaurs definitely ruled the sea. They were a danger to everything, including themselves. What's it eat? Whatever it feels like, including we have discovered other mosasaurs. Yes, they're cannibals. That can't be really good for the future of the species, but they were around for a long time, 94 million years ago to 66 million years ago. You know what happened at 66, right? Yeah, the asteroid hit. So they were around for quite a while, and apparently eating each other didn't stop the species from continuing. I don't know, man. Just, I'm not into this cannibalism thing. Naturally, this brings up the question, Mosasaur versus Megalodon. How would it have turned out? Well, Megalodon lived in the Cenozoic and Mosasaur had been gone for a long time, but if you did put these two together and they fought it out with each other, who would win? There's debate over the bite force of both animals. Which one's more agile? Mosasaurs are pretty agile, but I've seen sharks move around pretty fast too. They tend to be kind of have crinkly sort of spines. Cartilage skeleton certainly helps. I do know one thing. Megalodon has a very big advantage over Mosasaurus. It doesn't have to come up for air. Think about it. You bite on that fin and just keep pulling down. Yeah, Mosasaurus is going to drown if it doesn't bleed to death first. But, who knows? Vegas probably has odds on it someplace. As you can see, both of them are pretty big. There's the blue whale, biggest animal on the planet. There's Megalodon and Mosasaur, at least Tylosaurus version. Kind of a strange skull, but nonetheless, there it is. You can see they're roughly the same size. Yep, they could be up to about 40, 50 feet long. Over there is the great white shark, today's alpha predator, and wow, looks like a goldfish compared to the other guys. And here's the little guy, Homo sapien. But, which the most dangerous of all these animals? Right there, Homo sapiens. Not the size of the dog, it's the size of the fight in the dog. Plus, having opposable thumbs, big advantage when you dominate the planet. Yeah, I know. Someone's about to bring this up. Oh, you're trying to tell me Mosasaur dominated the seas? What about this picture you showed us last week, Mr. H? Well, yeah, Cryptorexia there. You got to remember, this is probably a juvenile mosasaur. There are different kinds of mosasaurs, so he decided to eat the small one. Well, if it wasn't you, it'd be another mosasaur, right? So, hope you enjoyed your brief stay on Earth. Mosasaur teeth. We know a lot about mosasaurs. We find their teeth all over the place. Marine animals tend to leave good fossils, die and get absorbed by the mud there, so it preserves them a lot more. The one over here, the brightly colored, cleaned, and available for sale on the website. Yeah, this is a mosasaur tooth, a small one. This is one I found. All right, that's what it's supposed to look like. It's black because it's really old. I think it's a mosasaur tooth. I'm pretty sure it is. I found that digging around in a creek bed. Yep, they're all over the place, man. So mosasaur teeth, Mr. H has one too, or something that resembled one anyway. We also know what their skin looked like. We have skin impression of mud from mosasaurs. No feather debate here. You can tell scales. Probably like a monitor lizard. If you ever think about the skin on a monitor, probably what a Tylosaurus had. Plus, it has to be sleek to go through the water. We also see evidence that the flippers, most of them have these, big wide flippers. This is something that's just come up recently, but we found things that look like mosasaurs, and they might actually have like terrestrial feet with webs between the toes. We're not sure what species that is. It must be something from very early on before it fully adapted to the ocean, but at least we're getting some idea of what a full picture of what these animals were like. It's what we used to think they looked like. We have retro versus modern. Remember I told you look at the spines it had on the back of those ruffles? 1890s or so when they first discovered it, that's what they thought it looked like. Here 2020, more of a, shall we say, whale sort of look to them, especially with the fluke tail. 1890s and so, lizard sort of tail. 2020s, you can see they've got the fluked tails, what they like to call it there. See this thing here? Once again, London. All right, imagine if you're coming back drunk from the soccer game at night and you see that. Oh, somebody sobered up real fast looking at that thing. And I just like, this is just a cool looking picture. Don't know if they're green or not, but it could be any color. Maybe if it lives near the coastline. Mosasaurs just kind of swim anywhere they want, deep ocean and on the coastline. So maybe this was a species that specialized in hanging around estuaries or something. Say what you will, though, you get some really cool paleo art when it comes to mosasaurs, man. The thing with the spines and the ruffles again, look at that. That was kind of cool, and they're fighting two ichthyosaurs. Gonna go with the mosasaur in this one. Here we are, got another mosasaur that looks like he's ate something really bad. Getting harassed here by a couple plesiosaurs. You might want to be careful about that. That neck's going to be a definite target if this guy gets mad. I like this one the best here. I actually had to go old school and shove this thing on a copier to get a picture of it. I really like that mosasaur there. Just look at teeth and the way it's coming out of that green water and everything. Plesiosaur, yeah, you might just want to get away from this guy. Good idea. Just take off. The minute you take off, you might go for your tail. I figure they probably have hunting strategies similar to a shark, I would think. Either attack from behind or come up from underneath. Let's move on there to the UFL, man. We're moving on here to week 4. Season's kind of cruising along. Got a fun schedule coming up this week. It features each team playing another team for the first time. This is going to be fun. We got Memphis going to St. Louis, right? Not that far apart from each other. Just across the Mississippi. We got Memphis over here, heading into St. Louis for the first time. The St. Louis Battlehawks, famous for the raucous and huge crowds. I'm going to see if they open up the upper deck for this one. People are going to have a lot of fun. I'm thinking St. Louis probably pulls this one out. Crowd advantage really comes in handy. We got DC playing Birmingham for the first time. DC, the team that says they should have won the XFL title last year, going up against two-time defending UFL champion Birmingham. Birmingham, undefeated. They are definitely making a case for win or title number 3. First time these two teams have fought each other. This is the one I'm really interested in. I'm going to be watching this one. Then we got Michigan versus San Antonio. Again, they've never played each other before. Now they will. This should be pretty interesting. They're both 2-1. So they're trying to work their way up the standings. Wow, this is going to be a close one too, man. I think this is going to be really interesting. Sometimes you go with the home team on this, a close one, but I don't know. I got a good feeling here about Michigan. Please don't bet on this. And now we got Arlington and Houston. Somebody's got to win. That's right, there's the Arlington Renegades, last year's champions, congratulating themselves on the XFL championship. But they haven't won a game this year, 0-3. And over here, the Houston Roughnecks, also 0-3. Can't decide which side of the helmet they want to use. Yeah, that really annoys Mr. H greatly, right? Some of the uniforms really get on my nerves sometimes. But, you know, UFL uniforms are pretty good, but I really don't like Houston's helmet. Maybe it's just prejudicing me a little bit about it and cheering for Arlington. But somebody's going to win this game. I'm betting it's Arlington. Take a quick look at the UFL standings before we run off screaming into the day here. In the USFL conference, excuse me, Birmingham, defending champion, 3-0, man, still on top of the pile. Talked about Michigan here at 2-1, right behind them. Memphis is 1-2, but if they pull off an upset against St. Louis, they're back in it. And Houston, 0-3, man. You want to join the party at some time? That's up to you. Why do I get the feeling they gave an invitation in the wrong address? Not that that's ever happened to me before. Over in the XFL conference, we've got a 3-way tie. Look at this, man. St. Louis, San Antonio, and DC, all 2-1, man. Gonna get some separation when this is over. Arlington, 0-3. Time to wake up, man. You got to do something. Find out if it's going to happen this week. It's the only way to do it, right? You guys have yourself a fantastic weekend. Have fun with the games. Be safe. By HeavenSteel. And I will see you again next week. Have a great day. Das Vidania.